Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and today we're talking about Sesame Street, the TV show that you watched when you were a toddler about Muppets teaching you your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. They also taught you, how to say hola and amigo and, random Spanish words and other vocabulary words, to prepare you for either preschool, if your parents had money, or kindergarten if they didn't, like mine. Like most, I would say, children of children, I guess, since its inception, but definitely of the 80s and 90s, for sure. I watched a lot of Sesame Street as a kid. Now, back then, I've talked about in other videos, in the 80s at least, before the 90s, cable TV didn't really exist as we know it. It was out there, but it was expensive, and it wasn't what you think of when you think of cable TV. There were a handful of cable networks, but mostly what you got when you got cable was just like, if you lived in, Salina, Kansas, you had your local ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, Fox affiliates. And then when you got cable, you got the Kansas City or Topeka feeds of their local stations. Plus, you also got, CNN and, WGN and TBS, etc. So it was a different beast back then. That's all to say we were watching a lot of PBS because we didn't have anything else to fucking watch. And that's where Sesame Street comes in. Now, Sesame Street has gone on for ages. It's still out there, I guess. It was, I don't know if it was created by Jim Henson and his friends, but they were involved in it somehow. And it does heavily utilize Muppets, but it also utilizes, grown adults in costumes, as well as, I guess you could say marionettes and other types of, hand puppets, etc. It's basically a mixture of Muppets and humans. The humans are there's random adults that play, there's like, the male person and the police officer and the school teacher, etc. Who all have their respective roles. But then there's also kids. It very heavily features children live on set who are a part of the episode. Now, there's usually, from what I remember, I haven't seen an episode of Sesame Street in over 30 years, so either correct me if I'm wrong, or bear with me, I'm going off of very fuzzy memories. But what I remember of it is basically it's sort of got a loose wraparound story for the episode that kind of sets the theme of the episode, like the magic word or the theme, today's theme is blue or today's theme is 13 or whatever. Something like that. Or some type of topic, like, doing the dishes or eating your vegetables or whatever. And then there's vignettes featuring a combination of Muppet characters and human characters, as I've already mentioned, that are sort of, that revolve around this particular theme. Now, even when I was a kid, I was a bit apprehensive towards Muppets. As an adult, I'm just indifferent towards them. Not apprehensive, but indifferent. Just don't care for Muppets, but, whatever. They're out there, they're doing their thing, they're not hurting anyone, so whatever. That is to say, I was not a huge fan of Sesame Street. It was just, it was bright, colorful, pictures that were bouncing around on the TV screen when I was a toddler. And by the time I was in school age, kindergarten up, I had already stopped watching Sesame Street. So, I would venture to say that the last episode I saw of Sesame Street live as a kid, current, was probably around 1989, 90, or maybe 91, but probably not that late. And it's 2004, 24, excuse me. I'm 41 now. I was probably 6, maybe 7, maybe 6 or 7 when I stopped watching Sesame Street. So again, my memories are fuzzy. What I do remember, I'm probably going to remember wrong. I remember Big Bird. Now, Big Bird was featured heavily on Sesame Street, but he was also part of the Muppet family. So, he does make appearances in the Muppet movies. He's one of the big characters in the Muppet, what is it? The Road Trip, the Muppet movie. I think it's the Muppet movie or the Muppets Take Manhattan. I can't remember. He's featured in that. He may be featured in other Muppet movies. I don't know, because I only watched that first one. And all I remember about it, and I don't remember which one it is. All I remember about it is they're in New York. They have jobs. Kermit loses his memory, and then I guess he marries Miss Piggy at the end? But I could be mistaken. I don't fucking know. It's been so long since I've seen it. But anyways, I remember Big Bird was in that movie. So I remember Big Bird. Big Yellow Bird. Big Bird is also, he's referenced in a bajillion things. He's mentioned in passing in a joke in Lethal Weapon, where they're interviewing a child who is probably no more than 5, maybe 6 years old. And they're asking him to be a witness of a crime. And one of the officers jokingly says, "Oh my God, let's put out an APB on Big Bird." So I remember that joke. Because I've seen Lethal Weapon a lot as an adult. Because, spoilers, it's not a movie for children. I shouldn't have been watching it as a kid. But I did nonetheless. But hey, you know what? Whatever. If my parents were going to let me watch Friday the 13th, and let me tell you what, there were boobs in it. They really couldn't tell me not to watch Lethal Weapon because of the boobs. Because it was like, I've already seen boobs. I know what they are. I don't know what they are, but I've seen them. I know what they look like. Anyways, let's get back to Sesame Street. Did I mention my videos are not for kids? Well, you've probably figured it out by now. Anyways, some of the other characters I remember, the big elephant-looking dude, hairy elephant, woolly mammoth dude, named Snuffleupagus, I think. I know there's Oscar the Grouch, who lives in a trash can. There's Cookie Monster. There's Elmo, who I only remember from the late 90s Tickle Me Elmo craze. I don't even really remember him from Sesame Street. I'm sure he was on it, but they all look the same, the Muppets. I can't tell one Muppet from another. There's the vampire who counts, and I think his name is Count something. Count like vampire count, like Count Dracula. But also count as in, he's counting. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, etc., etc. Oh, and there's Bert and Ernie. And that's all I remember about Sesame Street. I watched it when I was 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years old, and then I moved on with my life. I don't have kids. I don't babysit kids. I'm not around children, ever. Except for my sister's kids, when I would babysit them. And even they didn't watch Sesame Street. They were watching, SpongeBob and Teen Titans Go, which I would put on for the kids, make sure that they were safe, and then I'd go sit on the porch until it was over, because I was not watching that shit. I don't know, something fucking called Gumball or Bubblegum Pop or something stupid like that. I don't know. Kids watch weird shit. I don't know what they watch. I'm not a kid. And I don't have kids. But I don't really have what you would classify as fond memories of Sesame Street. It was on. Like I said, it was one of those, I barely remember it. I know nothing about the behind the scenes or the making of or the history or any of that. And frankly, I don't really give a damn. If you enjoyed Sesame Street, yay, good for you. You probably have memories comparable to mine, watching it up to pre-K or kindergarten and then, and then not watching it anymore. But I was not, at the time, enamored by it, so I didn't pay attention to it when it was on. I just barely remember it. And that's all I remember of it.